Welcome to Fun and Fundraising, everybody, the podcast where we talk with people behind top nonprofit galas and signature fundraising events to showcase how they positively transform their communities. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, and today I'm really happy to have an alumni guest on, and that is Karen Hughes, and she is the CEO of Vogel. And they do a very unique and interesting event. It's called Day One DFW. So it's something that's held on the first day of the year. And I know a lot of organizations have thought about doing that in a way that goes beyond, the polar bear plunge. And that's what they have done successfully for many years. And I know it's going to be a really fun and really interesting conversation to learn about this really great event and how they've done it successfully for years. So with that, Karen, welcome. And we're really thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
So, remind our guests what the mission of Vogel is.
Well, Vogel's mission is to help young children and their families prevent and overcome the traumatic effects of homelessness and poverty.
Fantastic. And, those are things that, people have, people do struggle with. In Dallas being a specifically large area, you have to do, you have a pretty large geography, which is one of the reasons why you have, Day One DFW. What I'd like for you to share is, before we kind of talk about Day One DFW, I want to dive a little bit in with you all with nonprofit partnerships because you all partner expertly with many, many top nonprofits in Dallas. So talk about the importance of partnering with other nonprofit organizations so that you can expand your services and reach more people.
Well, great. Yeah. So Vogel has for 38 years only had one campus. And the board set out about 5 years ago to say if we were going to expand, we needed to do it in partnership. So our new North location that we opened a year ago is in partnership with Family Gateway. Family Gateway runs the actual family shelter, and Vogel puts the child care center, does the child care center on the first floor. And then just this week, I was out at Salvation Army's groundbreaking, and they are building a whole new campus and putting the child care center there, and we will be running that for them. And then our Redbird location is really a partnership with the Shops of Redbird and them giving us space and allowing us to build it out. So everything we're doing right now has to do with a partnership with other people. And of course, we partner with Dallas ISD in a pre-K partnership. We partner with Dallas Head Start for our Head Start programs, and then many nonprofits send their children to Vogel that are working in the homeless space. They send that with families. They send their children to us, whether it's emergency shelter, transitional, domestic violence shelter. So Vogel's kind of like the hub in the middle of many different nonprofits and what we provide.
So I'm glad you showcased that, that range and that array of nonprofits. And it's exciting to hear that the Salvation Army capital campaign is done and it's funded and they're ready to break ground. Because I know it's one of the largest, I think one of the largest capital campaigns in the history of North Texas. Like it's a very substantive thing they're undertaking.
Absolutely. I think they said yesterday like 191 million, and I think they need 215. So they have enough to get started and just bring the rest home.
Yeah, 90%. Yeah, when you're 90% there, yeah, you can afford to break ground,
Right.
I think, at that point. Yeah. Now, you were talking about because that's a wide range of, nonprofits that you were talking about that you're partnering with. So, and a lot of them do, I don't want to say they do the same thing, but they do, services that may be on, in the same state, but maybe a different city in the same state. Talk a little bit about when you're doing some partnering with another organization, they may have, I don't want to say there's overlap, but there's stuff that's really complementary. How do you work with them to really say, okay, we're going to focus on this piece and you're going to focus on this piece? Were there areas you may overlap?
So like even with Family Gateway and Salvation Army, we are the experts on childcare. They made it clear we don't know that. We don't want to know it. That's y'all's thing. But when it comes to the parent, like Family Gateway, they work with the families on finding, giving them the resources and giving them stability for housing, and they have case management. But if it has to do, so they deal with more the parent side of it. Whereas with Vogel, we work with the parent about their child. If you're going to leave, what kind of child care center do you have? Does your child have developmental delays? How can we help you? Are you signed up for child care assistance? So we have our own roles that working with the same clients.
Fantastic. And I know, and I want to dive into one of the other partnerships you've done, and that is so, and you were a beneficiary, I believe it wasn't this past, it might have been this past year or the year before, but you were a beneficiary of the Crystal Charity Ball.
Yeah,
And
we just received our funding for that.
oh, fantastic. Talk a little bit more about that because, I think people, feel that when organizations get to a certain level, I don't want to say that grants aren't necessarily important, but essentially what Crystal Charity Ball was giving you to a degree was a grant to fund a project, as a beneficiary. So share a little bit more about that and just kind of the process of working and getting a substantial seven-figure grant for the initiatives that you're doing.
Well, with Christian Charity, you first have to be working with kids. They don't budge on that. It is a grant for children. And this is the third one that Bogle has gotten from Crystal Charity in the history. Bogle, over the 38 years. But it is so the project we did was we had built out Redbird and we had finished that. We went to Crystal Charity for phase two of the capital campaign, which was more operations money for Redbird. So again, anytime you start a new project, especially startup, you're just like a startup company. So you want to have some running room. And so that's what our grant was. So we could get, because at Redbird, it's going to be fee for service and also child care assistance money, but we have to get open and running and get all that set up and get the parents enrolled and all of that. So that's what that grant was for. But really you have to have, I will say, it's not easy money to get. It's not only you have to have the right project, but you work with them for a whole year. And you've got to have a strong development staff that's willing to able to work with them. And so literally my grant writer did work with them every single day in writing the grant proposals for them, because you have to work side by side, because they're going to go after people for that project, but you can't go after them for other things. So you have to be very much in connection with them on a daily basis. But they're great ladies. They're really fun to work with, but it is a lot of work. It's not just, people think it's hard to get the grant, to get chosen, and it is quite the process. And it's kind of a stamp of approval once you get one of their projects. But that's the way the work just begins at that point. You work with them literally for a whole year to help as they're raising the money for your project.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have one follow-up question on that. And that is, what advice would you give, because you have received, grants from them multiple times, what advice would you give to an organization in the grant process so that you can get repeat donations from an organization, specifically a high-profile one like Crystal Charity?
Well, I just think you have to have the right project. So Crystal Charity is not an organization. There's some of my foundation partners. I go back to them every 2 years or every year, but with Salvation Army, we kind of put it to the side. I mean, with Crystal Charity, we kind of put it to the side and wait for a really great project. So that, because it is a lot of work. And so you really want to make sure you've done your homework and you've really got a really good project that they're going to want to get behind and that they can raise money for them.
Absolutely. And speaking of, raising money, you all have the Day One DFW coming up, and I know you're all entering your second decade now with this. So
Yes.
congratulations on that. So talk about the concept of what Day One DFW is and how it's grown and evolved over the last 11 years.
Well, we started originally, I had the idea originally when I moved to here from DC, because in DC, when I was living in the district, and I lived in Alexandria, they had what was called First Night. And actually Boston has a First Night. Several major cities on the East Coast have what's called First Night, and it's a family event on New Year's Eve. And so when I moved back to Texas, I'm from here, but when I moved back here and I had my young son, he was 2.5, there's nothing really to do on New Year's Eve for kids. And so we started out thinking it would be a New Year's Eve thing. And as we got a consultant, and the thing is, we were doing a luncheon and we just wanted to do something different. Is there not something different we can do that nobody else is doing? Everybody has a luncheon, everybody has a gala, everybody has a golf outing. What else could we do? And so we came up with this idea. We hired a consultant. We looked at it for a year. And after that, we decided that we were going to try it. And so, but as part of the consultant phase, we decided not to do it on New Year's Eve, but to do it on New Year's Day. And that's where the name came from, Day One. And actually, it started out as Day One Dallas because we started out doing it at Fair Park. And I will say it's one of those things that we overshot the field on the first one. We thought we could raise a lot more money than we did. We spent a lot of money and we lost a lot of money on the first event. But I think people saw the chance for this to be something. And so I went back to my board and said, okay, I know I have lost a lot of money here, but this does have legs and we just need to do it again. And so we stayed at Fair Park. We did it again. Second year, we broke even. And when you start up a new event, just on second year, that's something to say that you broke even, to have to start a new event. But then as the years have gone by, we were at Fair Park, and that's where we had it. It really had a signature. One of the favorite things about Day One was the fireworks, and they were awesome at Fair Park because they shot them off the Centennial and the Auto Building, and you were standing right under them, and they were with children's music. And then I can't remember exactly what number year, but it's the year that the hockey people came to town. The big hockey thing that everybody went to that was like, it's only here, it's the winter something.
Okay.
And so all of NBC, ABC, all the news medias took over Fair Park because of this event. And so we could not do it there. And so we moved it up to Frisco and did it for 1 year at the Rough Rider Stadium and the Convention Center. And so that worked well. But when we did that, then, so we still called it Day One Dallas then. But then COVID happened. And so this is an event that brings together 3,000 to 5,000 people under one roof. So we could not do it with COVID, but we wanted to keep it going. So then we partnered with David Buster's because to do it on their sites because they were still open because they had already done everything that they needed to do to meet the requirements for COVID. And so we did it actually 2 years there and through the COVID era. And that's why it was now all over the Metroplex because we did it at their sites. And so we've changed the name to Day One DFW. And then that ended, and that really, it helped us, and we were so grateful that it helped us during the COVID era, but we weren't really making the money because it was, in their space and only for part of the day, because quite honestly, for those kind of places, January 1st is a big day for them, revenue-wise. And so then we moved it to the Irving Convention Center, and that has been its home for the last, this will be the 4th year at Irving Convention Center. And it's a great venue. It's right in the middle of the Metroplex and easy to get to. And so that's kind of the history of the event and how it's grown to be what it is today. And this will be number 11. And some people that come say they've come to every single one. So we set out to make it, we wanted people to have a new tradition to do on January 1st. And I think we've accomplished that with this event because people, that's what they plan to do is they come and they've come for 10 years. That's what they do on New Year's Day.
Well, congratulations on 11 years. And that's a lot of shifting you had to do from Fair Park up and over, and then finally over to Irving, dealing with COVID. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. And, I appreciate your honesty and candor, with the first year and kind of getting your sea legs. What advice would you give to an organization to pivot a signature fundraising event when you can see the success, but it didn't necessarily come to you initially?
Scale it back, and you just got to scale back the expenses, and that's what we did because I think we were in, at Fair Park we were in like 9 different areas of the park, and we were even in the music hall with thinking that people could buy tickets and do kid concerts and all of that. So we just way overdid it, and so the way we did it is we just scaled back the expenses on it. The other thing we learned is you have to know how to market it and when to market it. We spent a lot of money the first year on marketing it year round. And what we realized was nobody pays attention to what they're going to do on New Year's Day till after Christmas. And then they pay attention. So we put our ticket sales out there. We tell people that it's coming. But we spent a lot of money going to like the Balloon Fest, going to other festivals around the city and having a booth and telling people about that. And yeah, you need to come. People thought it was fine, but nobody paid attention because we now know it's what it is. It's mom's marketing. Moms are going to decide what they're going to do on New Year's Day. But they're not going to make that decision till after Christmas. And so we put all of our emphasis on December. And that was a big win because that's at least, we thought we had spent a lot of money, but when you're trying to market something in the DFW Metroplex, our money, even though it was big money to us, was a drop in the bucket to what it takes to really make that name get out there. And so we learned a big lesson on money we could save, probably over $100,000 that we could save or more than we put on marketing that we didn't need to.
Those are all really great pieces of advice. And to show if you've got a great idea, it's okay to take a step back and it's okay to scale back and focus on what the kernels of success and allow everything to kind of bloom from there. And
we also, when we first started, we were open all day. We got open like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then we realized that nobody was going to come on a day event at after the New Year's Eve in the morning. So we scaled it back, and now we open at noon and close at 7. So and then I think the other thing that we've realized is we make our money on sponsorships for this event. And so kids are free. The thing that's a real selling point for our event is because it's a full day of activities for kids. But I don't know, I mean, I love the state fair, but when you go to the state fair, and especially with a family, you walk in the gate, you might have even gotten a free ticket at school, but you dropped $150 to $200 to $300 before it's been 30 minutes. Because everything, once you're in there, you have to pay for. And so that's what people love about our event. We said from day one that the kids were going to be free. So parents have to pay, but the kids are free. And when they come in there, the only thing they have to buy is concessions. All the activities are free. Now, this past year, we did something new that tended to work well. And that way you can only have so many balloon artists and so many face painters, and moms had stood in line for their kids to get that. So we created a VIP section. So if you paid $25 for your child, they could go to the VIP section. And we only let so many people in there during a certain time period. And we had special activities in there that weren't anywhere else. And also we had the balloons and the face painters. And so you didn't have to stand in line if you wanted to. And people paid for it. It's kind of like skip the line at Disney World or whatever it is. But so we tried that. And so we've done different things. The fireworks have always been a push, but the fireworks were tricky because they worked at Fair Park and they were awesome at Fair Park. But fireworks are all called the time, the fire marshal's standing there at the time they're supposed to go off, and he's going to say, yes, you can shoot them, or no, you can't. And weather is a big issue with that. And so the year we were in COVID, we were going to do fireworks in Frisco, and we were at Dave and Buster's at the Fort Worth. Both fire marshals called the fireworks after we had paid for them because the wind came in that afternoon. And so then but when we went to Irving, the problem is that the first year we were able to do the fireworks and it worked out well. The second year, they had sold the land across from if you've been to the Irving Convention Center, they've built it all up now. And the only way you can shoot fireworks in Irving now is you have to build a barge and go out on Lake Catherine, and that was beyond us. And so we decided that we wouldn't do fireworks, that we would do, we did Emerald City Band. So we had a glow party at the end with Emerald City Band, like a dance party. And kids love that. But and then last year we thought we were doing a great thing and we hired this company long before America's Got Talent, but we hired the drone company and we were going to do a drone show. We had it all choreographed around what we call the promises instead of resolutions. We call them promises that kids can make at the first of the year. It was a great show. Everything was good. And actually, we hired them before they went on. It's the same company that won third prize at America's Got Talent. And literally 2 days before the event, they called us and said that the FAA had pulled their license. And because they were the company that was in Florida that had the drone that fell out of the sky in Florida that hurt the little boy. And so the FAA had yanked their license. They have it back now, but anyway, so we couldn't do it then. So we just decided that, but nobody missed it at the end of the day. People still had a good time. And so we probably won't even add that extra because that's about a $25,000-$30,000 ad for expense that people didn't really miss at the end of the day, even though it was fun when we did it. But we've done it many other times. And then we don't have to worry about what's happening with the weather either, especially at that time of the year. So
That sounds like the scale back that you were talking about there. That's an element of that.
you just every year you learn a new lesson and you just adapt.
Well, and especially when you're doing something for 3 to 5 thousand people. I mean, that's a large, what advice would you give to somebody, wanting to do an event that's more because that's much more festival and family oriented versus a gala. So talk a little bit about what advice you would give, as well as kind of the main differences between a family oriented event versus something that's a little bit more of a traditional gala.
Well, it's interesting that because of that, first of all, the sponsors are very different. Who you go after for sponsorships for this kind of event are very different than who we go after for our gala. Um, Gala people are very much philanthropy people. That's who's buying those sponsorships, etc. Here we deal with the marketing company, the marketing arm of the company, because they want, and you go after a different group of people. They're not doing it just for philanthropy. I'm sure they're happy they're able to help, but they're doing it for their marketing purposes to get eyeballs on their product that their main customer are families, or moms and dads. And so it's a whole different ball game of who you choose to solicit for sponsors, versus who you would do for sponsorships on the other side. And you're going in a different door for marketing people than you are. But you got to have your act together because marketing people want marketing reports. You can't just sell the data. The mission. You've got to be able to sell. Well, we're going to have this many people. Last year we had this many impressions, this many of this many of that, and so we have to create a whole marketing report for them so that they can sell it up the chain for that. They're going to use their marketing dollars to come. I guess the other thing that is different is again selling to the general public. So we had to go with we do a whole ticketing company that helps us with that, not just through our website, but we sell tickets through a ticketing company. And so that's a little bit, that's different. And then again, you just have to be able to have enough activities that people are able to, and got to have the right spot for people to be able to have that many people under one roof. And the thing is, at the convention center, they're all on 4 floors, so you really don't realize there's that many people there to count how many tickets you sold.
But that's good that people feel like that they can spread out because, some of the parents maybe a little bit hungover that are going there that day. That may be a thing for some of them. So it's not 5,000 people in a confined space. There's kind of space for them to breathe and kind of get to better enjoy themselves as a result of that too.
Next time you're going to have something on a holiday like that, you're going to have the people that say, well, we would do it, but our people won't come out because it's their holiday. So you have people that you may want to do a display, because that's one of the things a sponsor can also do a booth at the conference. And so at the event, and some of them won't do that because they don't have the staff to come out on New Year's Day. But what we convinced them of that, they can do a sponsorship and then they don't have to, we can just name something after them. So we'll name the climbing wall after them and put their logo on there and then give them the tickets to give to their employees that can come if they want to have fun. So you just have to kind of go through a different door to realize that.
That's interesting. And you can utilize those companies to get people exposure to the organization that way too, in a way that they may have never heard of you or understood what you all were about, but they get to have an enjoyable experience courtesy of you.
Yeah, our vendors love this. So the people that come in and do the activities, most of them is like literally we just send out an email, y'all coming back, and they say yes. They just it's on their calendar and they love the event.
That's amazing, and I'm glad that you all stuck with it and you cracked the code right after COVID, and it's taken off like a rocket ship since. And one of the reasons, and you were kind of talking about the various things and having people be able to kind of spread out over several floors and all that, but talk about how the event team and the committee goes about providing experiences that the whole family can enjoy, whether it's kids, kids at heart, parents, grandparents if they're coming along. How you go about doing that so that everyone really is enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. So of course we have the blow up stuff. We don't do bounce houses. You have to even look at that kind of thing because with bounce houses, kids get in there and stay forever, and you need them to move on. So we do like obstacle courses and slides. So you go up and down and gone. But we've had to learn that. So we have, of course, a whole room of all of that kind of stuff. We have a climbing wall. But we also, when we do the blow up kind of stuff, we work with Texas Entertainment and they're awesome. And we go and look at all the new stuff, things that they have not seen somewhere else, and the big orb balls that you can get in and roll about. And so very unique. We have the bucking reindeer instead of the bull, thing. And so it's a lot of unique stuff. And then of course we have the face painters and that we also have a stage where we use that. School of Rock comes and plays. They've been doing it almost for every year. And then we usually have the guy with the snakes. So we have presentations. We have the magic show, and kids love that. But I have to tell you, of all the things, the favorite activity of the kids, and I made this up like either year one or year two, I can't remember. And I said, what kids love is cardboard and tape. What if we got somebody to donate big pieces of cardboard and we got tape and we just put it in the room and see what happens? It has become the cardboard village. And so we have done it now for every year. And kids literally walk in the door that have been before and they ask, where's the cardboard village? And they will go and stay in there forever. It doesn't cost us much. We have a company that does tape. That's what they make. So they save tape for us all year long when they make the wrong kind or whatever, and they bring the tape and they get the cardboard donated and we just put it out, and it truly is all the pictures about Day One Dallas DFW got the cardboard village in it. And so that's one of the favorites. The other one is bingo, and the kids love bingo. They will sit in there and play bingo with their parents because they say we give the best prizes. And so because Vogel has a holiday store in December for all our parents, there are sometimes we have extra toys, so we bring the toys for prizes, and they love bingo. So it's not just all fancy kind of stuff, it's the other thing. And so sometimes it's like this year we had the crazy hair station where they could put stuff in their hair and have crazy hair. But the other thing that was a simple thing was there was a thing that Texas Entertainment had this year that we put out, and it was a hanging bar. All it was a bar, and you hung up on it, and it told you how long you could hang. And I said, we actually had gotten, I can't remember, somebody had given us like a $200 gift card from Amazon, for Amazon or somebody. I said, how about if we just did a contest? And they did throughout the day, they could come and figure out, and the person who won at the end, we had different categories if you were, over this age and who would hung. And that was one of their favorite things last year was the hanging bar. To see who was going to win the gift card. And those kids would come back time after time, and even the adults, because they got into it. And so that's the thing. We do activities that the kids we have arts and crafts. We have all kinds of things that the parents can do with the kids. It's not just kid stuff. So that's, I think, what's made it fun for the whole family. And we do different things. So, it's not a real teen thing. Middle school kids probably wouldn't like, they get dragged there, but it's really, Even the little guys love it just because of all the fun things. And we have jugglers that walk around. Oh, the other thing, the Star Wars people have been there for 10 years. And they literally come every year. So we have all the Star Wars people, and the Jedis and the Darth Vader and all of them walk around. We have the jugglers and all this circus kind of people as well. So there really is something for everybody.
That, I got to tell you, so one, I love that you repurpose the gifts from the Christmas store and give them away as prizes because that's a cost-effective thing that you can do, and they're good prizes, and it winds up being one of your most popular things.
Yeah,
That was the first one. And secondly, I can personally attest to the popularity of cardboard because when I was in first grade, I was in a school in the Northeast with no air conditioning in May, and we were the class that came in after like a refrigerator was delivered. And it was this giant cardboard thing we cut out, and we would literally fight every morning over who got to go into it, even though it was 155 degrees in there.
it is amazing.
You just never know what an audience is gonna love. So it gave me a good fun flashback with that. So I
I
appreciated
love
that story.
contests. I'm glad one year we did just who could make a hole in one, and we had a golf ball and a thing, a putter and whatever. And this year we didn't do it, and people kept asking. The kids would come up, "Where is the contest for the golf?" So they remember from year to year what they're going to come and do.
That's really amazing. And that shows that you've got an enthused, engaged audience and enthused and engaged families. And that's really, really fantastic. And it really shows the array of activities. And, dads and moms can go and putt
Right,
with the child and they can compete amongst themselves,
right.
let alone with their peers. So I mean that's a really good example of kind of how
And
a
we even
child of
throw
any
in
age.
we even throw in some good bingo prizes for mom and dad too. So
Oh well, you gotta have that. Everybody wins then that way.
exactly.
So I know we're coming up on time here, and I want to ask you this question, and that is, what advice would you give to somebody planning their first gala signature fundraising event, family event, whatever it may be?
Oh God, that's hard. But I would say I think you've got to I would get clear about what the purpose of the event is. And I think that and why you're doing it, and not just to say, well, we want to raise money, because every one of our events, we do two major events now, but we also are now doing one in August. They don't have the same purpose. So, like, we'll be doing a dodgeball tournament in August. Okay, that's it at SMU. The purpose of that event is to get teams of corporations to come out, learn about Vogel, because they'll get teams of their people and a lot of young people to be involved to know about it. So it is a totally different purpose. Day One Dallas, Day One DFW's purpose is not the biggest fundraiser that we have. It is that we have we get more awareness out of Day One DFW than anything else we do. Even though we have a great mission, not everybody wants to write a story about us, but we get on Day One, we get on Good Morning Texas, we get TV commercials, we get billboards, we get media at the event because it's a child and family event during the holidays. And quite honestly, there's nothing else to report on usually after Christmas. So we get more awareness than anything else for that event. But I also like to give that, even though we do want, our goal is to fundraise there, it also is awareness of giving more people access to Vogel. But also, to me, it's a way for people to give back with their kids, because we call it, families helping families, because you're coming out with your family and doing this, and then yet you also are helping the families because of the money that we raise. And the other thing about Day One DFW, it's a perfect opportunity for families to volunteer together, because we use over 100 volunteers for that event. But the kind of volunteering we have is, make sure the people are on the slide or whatever, so kids can do it with their families. And so that is a very different. Now, if you want to really raise money, I raise money at my gala. That's a $1.3 million fundraise. So I think the most important thing for a person starting an event is, what is the purpose of your event? Is it for truly raising money? Is it awareness? Is it to reach a certain audience? And then plan it around that.
That was fantastic, fantastic advice. And that there's an event for everybody, and there's an event on any day of the year. And I loved how you talked about the benefits of there may not be a lot of competition from a media perspective, and you've gotten all this media support from it, and you're doing it on a day that people may either not think to do it or frankly are afraid to do it. And you all have done it successfully. You've worked through it, and now it's really just this thriving, wonderful event. And it's just awesome to see its success. And Karen, thank you so much for joining us today. This was really a fantastic conversation. I enjoyed every second of it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And day one DFW benefiting Vogel will be held on January 1st, 2026 at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas. For more information, please visit vogelalcove.org. And that will do it for this episode of Fun and Fundraising. I'm your host, Rob Giardinelli, reminding you to keep it fun, keep it interesting, and your guests will have a great time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.